Good morning, everyone. This is Sarah here from the Indiana Arts Commission. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We've got about an hour and a half today to talk through the proposal process for this year's convening. I'm here with Maya Michelson and a few of the IAC staff, and Louis Rickey will be introducing in just a moment. So, quick agenda for the day. We're going to do a little bit of an introduction, talk about what the homecoming is and what we're looking at for 2019. We're going to walk through the proposal submission process and what you need, what we need, those sorts of things, and then we're just going to open it up to all the questions in the world. And you can type them in, or you can tell them to us at the time. Right now, I think we've got everybody on mute, so raise your hand or type your question if you have any clarifications during the presentation portion. All right. In terms of Zoom, what you're seeing on your screen, you should be able to drag and pull the corners of it if you need it to be larger or smaller at any given time. And you should have controls down on the bottom left, I believe, for your audio and video, turning them on and off, although I think we've probably turned everybody's video just off for today. In the chat box or the participant list is where you can see places to raise your hand and places to type. All right, so with that, I'm going to introduce Mr. Rickey, the Executive Director of Indiana Arts Commission, to give us a little bit of background about the homecoming itself.
Well, first of all, thanks for joining us today, and we're excited that you have interest in being part of the homecoming. The Indiana Arts Homecoming is now in its third iteration, or about to be in its third iteration. And it was conceived a number of years ago by some of our commissioners as a way to embrace and celebrate the great things that are happening in our state, and to put the life of the homecoming in the hands of the people in our state. So it is steered by a wonderful steering committee of about 15, 20 people from around the state. And as you can see, a lot of the life of the event is in the realm of invited proposals from all of you with topics that are important to you and work that you're doing that's important to you. So the rest of the state can learn from your successes and from your challenges as well. So the idea of this event is for it to be in the hands of the people that we serve. And so we're really excited that you are interested in being a part of it in that way. So Maya and Sarah are going to go over today with you sort of the process by which proposals will be entertained by the big committee. And we're excited about also the topic. The topic for all three of the homecomings that have been or will be here in the fall are in line with our strategic plan as a commission, which again was a process that was in the hands of people in our state. So it's in line with that, but other than that, of being the umbrella for the ideas, it's no more prescriptive than that. And of course, the theme for this year's is idea work, inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, and all of that which that encompasses and means for all of you as well. So with that in mind, and with that introduction, I turn it back over to Maya and Sarah. Sarah is our chief wrangler for the event, and Maya is our head staff person for the event. So, and they do a wonderful job with it. So enjoy your time with them today.
All right, thank you, Louis. We appreciate you finding some time to be with us in this process today. Let's get into the depth of it. You know what Indiana Homecoming is. got a brief introduction to the theme. We'll talk about it some more, but really today is about submitting proposals. So, real quick, roadmap, where to go for information as you're working towards the proposal process. We'll post these so you can see them and track them later on, but the roadmap for information, if you go to the Indiana Arts Commission website, click on events, Arts Homecoming, and submit the session proposal. There you will find all the information we've got posted. We've got a frequently asked question document with some details in it. We've got a language guide posted. Language guide being particularly important this year, given that we're talking about access and diversity and equity, those sorts of things. We want to at least be consistent with what we're talking about and have a baseline for how we're going to talk. There's a PDF version of the proposal submission form that we encourage you to download and use as part of your preparation. You can submit that via email directly to me, or you can submit online via SurveyMonkey. One quick heads up in terms of SurveyMonkey, once you're in, you need to finish it all in one fell swoop. Because it's an open process, it's not set up to be able for you to come and go, which is why we have the PDF version. So the proposal itself, we're not asking for a lot. We're asking for the basics to get you started. We know this is well in advance of the event itself. So as you submit the proposal, you're going to need your proposed title, some details on the category it fits in terms of the speaker representation and tracks and those sorts of things. We'll talk about that in a minute. Some learning objectives, at least one, a brief description, give us a sense of the requirements you have for the room and where you are, if it's fully developed, if you're still working on it, those sorts of things. And then information on the speakers so we could follow up with you, and if there are any sort of ADA accommodations that any of you need. The sooner we know that, the better. So that's the brief intro to the session proposal. In terms of what you're proposing for, it's a 60-minute session surrounded by 20-minute breaks. As a speaker, you get free day of admission and a discount if you want to come for the entire event. We would love for you to come for the entire event, but we know lots of speakers tend to run in and out. If you're on the first day, there's lunch and a reception. If you're on the second day, there's breakfast and lunch. We're estimating 40 to 80 attendees in any given room. That's been our experience so far. You'll be set up theater style. As speakers, you'll have a table and a podium. There'll be a projector screen and laptop with the session preloaded. And for most rooms, there will be microphones. We've got one setup that's gonna avoid that, but that's for consideration for down the road. A couple of quick notes, and then I'm going to hand it off to Maya in just a second. No more than 4 speakers in a session. Yet, for those of you who've been, some of you know that we've had some very large panels. We're trying to bring that down just a little bit this year if we can. That said, anyone is free to submit as many proposals as they want. We're happy to have all the ideas come before the steering committee. We may, as part of the process, send back some questions along the way and ask you to do some revisions. Hope you won't be offended by that. And we will be asking if you're selected for draft and final presentations in advance so that we can make sure everything works well, get them loaded on the computers, check for some basic accessibility and those sorts of things. Speaking of which, we are going to ask that some basic accessibility principles be embedded in the presentations. Don't worry about that. We're going to help. We're going to help along the way as that comes to pass. Maya, can you tell us a little bit about the theme itself?
Absolutely. Again, welcome everybody. Glad to be here. So this year's theme is inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. And those are terms that we hear obviously a lot in the environment. So we wanted to put definitions forward so that folks would know exactly what we're talking about when we mention inclusion, diversity, equity, access. I'm going to just quickly read them. They're very straightforward. They will also be on the creating a proposal. There'll be a link there for you to see those definitions again, to be reminded of them. But inclusion is the act of creating environments in which any individual or group can be and feel welcomed, respected, supported, and valued to fully participate. Diversity includes all the ways in which people differ, and it encompasses all the characteristics that make one individual or group different from another. So perhaps a broader definition of diversity than you may be used to seeing. So we want to put that out there. We want to make sure that people understand fully that we are looking at the spectrum of ways in which people are different from one another, and the groups are different from one another. Equity is fair treatment, access, opportunity, and advancement for all people, while at the same time striving to identify and eliminate barriers that have prevented the full participation of some groups. And access is the capacity of everyone to be included in all programs and activities. And again, really important that folks understand those specific, the way we're defining those specific terms. We're happy to entertain questions after via email or in the chat box. If you've got questions about whether or not a particular proposal you might be thinking about, you know, how it addresses diversity, and if that's appropriate, we're happy to answer those questions. But again, we want to give it the broadest possible lens to look at these four really important topics.
So if, just to go real quick back, just a little bit, there we go. So resume share. So when we look at the theme as a whole, it's those four concepts in service to arts for all. So the goal of this year's convening, the broader theme, is to explore what arts for all really means in practice across these four dimensions, to inspire new ideas for participants to advance their work, those that are already doing it, going deeper, or sharing with their peers, those who aren't doing it, explore the questions and obstacles and how to get started. To deepen leadership and capacity for artists, organizations, and communities as well. We know that each year there are folks that ask for additional sort of skill building sorts of sessions, and so we're intentionally building a track this year that will go in that direction. So if we want to talk about tracks, we've got 4 tracks this year. The first year we had 4 tracks. Last year we had 5. We're going back down to 4 to make it a little easier, both on the prep and for the attendees. They only have 4 things to choose from at any given time. The 4 tracks are headed by what you see on your screen right now. So one track will be sessions tied specifically to learning what idea means and why it's important, to all the grounding sorts of things. The next will be share. So explore what it means in practice. Let's do some learning from one another on what works, what doesn't work, how things work, how things get started, how we can build on each other's past success. So case studies, innovative approaches, best practices, those sorts of things. The third is inspire. And in this one, we're hoping that the folks will share an understanding of what perhaps Alana organizations and artists care about. You'll notice I just used the term Alana. It's how we're referring to what in other settings might be people of color or minorities or underserved, all of those sorts of things. It's an acronym for oh, and I'm going to get them out of order because I don't have them all in front of me right now, so forgive me. So African, Latinx, Arab, Native American, and Asian, out of order, but that's what it encompasses. So back to inspire. So inspire folks to take the next step, provide hands-on workshops, those sorts of things. And then the fourth is build. and we're opening this track up again for more nuts and bolts kinds of things related to either the business of art from an artist perspective or the business of art from an organizational perspective. Maya, do you want to add that?
Yeah, I just want to jump in and say, when you, and we'll get to this in a minute, when you start to put your proposal together, you have the opportunity to select which track you think your proposal fits into. Don't flip out if all of it, you can't, you know, you're not sure whether it's a learn or a share or an inspire. We'll help you figure that out. Just pick something for now, and if we need to move a proposal around from, if we feel like, or if the steering committee feels like it's more of a share project versus an inspire proposal, we might move it around. So we don't want you to get too hung up in that. Just think about the essence of what you're proposing. Is it more of a, we want to share our experience, or are we super fired up about what we did and we want to inspire you and sort of get you thinking about what you're working on. And again, I want to touch on what Sarah mentioned about the nuts and bolts track. We have, for the last couple of years, when we get evaluations back from folks who attend the homecoming, have asked for, you know, basics in fundraising or basics in board recruitment or marketing on a shoestring and things like that. And those are the sorts of proposals that we're looking for from that track. They may or may not touch on IDEA. They could. For example, building diversity on a board would be a great example of one that touches on nuts and bolts and an IDEA topic. But we're looking for, again, those folks who are, you know, have some experience in arts management, as well as artists who might want to, say, propose a session on how to do an amazing artist statement, or how to get your work ready to be seen by galleries, or how to, you know, how to put together a business plan and so forth. So again, we're looking for nuts and bolts for arts management from the organizational side as well as from the artist side.
Excellent, excellent. So a couple brief tips for answering some of the proposal questions. And again, this is to get us started, because in a minute we're going to hand it off to you to ask your questions, but I'm sure we'll get into much more depth here. So in terms of the title, it's a proposed title. There'll probably be some noodling with it along the way, but really briefly, the intent is that it helps the attendee pick a session. So what's the big idea, and is it expressed in a way that's enticing, that makes folks want to go there. Similarly, the description shouldn't be all that long. I think we've got, I can't remember. I think it's 75 words or something like that. No, it's 150 words that you're allowed to give. Again, a brief statement on what the session is, expressed in a way that is interesting and helps folks know what they're going to walk away with. In terms of learning objectives, we ask for one. You can give up to 3. Be realistic. You know, we're not going to solve peace in the world or any of those sorts of things. But be specific and action first. So what's somebody going to learn or understand, as opposed to you know, they're going to hear, right? So what is the attendee going to do or feel?
And I'll just jump in and say that Sarah had mentioned case studies, and absolutely we want to hear from case studies, or about case studies that organizations or artists may have experienced in this work. We're also going to want you, though, to tease out from that case study what an attendee is going to learn from having heard about your case study. Are they going to learn how to do what you did? Are they going to learn how to get ready for the work that you did? So as much fun as it can be to share an awesome thing that you did, we want to make sure that folks who walk out from these sessions, the attendees and participants, walk out not only inspired, but equipped with tools that they can take back to their community, or processes that they need to think about, or tips or resources from the web or something. Because again, part of this is sharing, but a lot of this is learning and networking. So we want to make sure when you're thinking about your objectives, make sure that you're thinking about what the, you know, if you were walking into this session, whatever it is, what would you want to walk out having learned how to do or know how to do or know how to reach out? So.
And related to all of this, we're having this webinar today, obviously, but you will find my contact and Maya's contact on virtually everything to do with homecoming and the session proposal process. Please feel free to call, email, and work through things in advance if you have questions.
And I would jump in to say that, you know, our first homecoming, a lot of the proposals were curated by staff with some participation from the field. Last year's homecoming, more participation from the field, but still some staff curation. We want to move the field eventually to where session proposals are entirely, if not almost entirely, proposed, presented, and curated by the field, which is you. But we've sort of realized in the process that although there's a lot of great expertise out in the field, that not everybody has experience in putting a proposal together or presenting at a conference. And so this is the first sort of step in getting folks ready to do that if you've never done that before. But then, as Sarah mentioned, she and I are there along the way to hold your hand as proposals start to come in, and maybe they're almost done, but not quite. Maybe there's an opportunity for us to get in and sort of help walk you through a little bit more. You know, maybe you've got one objective, and maybe based on the description, we can pull out another objective or two, or help you focus the PowerPoint or the presentation you might actually do there to help make sure those learning objectives get through. So part of this is obviously daylighting what's out there, but then also building capacity in the field so that after you've knocked it out of the park at this year's homecoming, man, you're ready to go to your National Theater Conference or your National Visual Arts Conference or your, some sort of national or regional opportunity for presentation, or you're ready to hit it out of the park at your local Rotary Club or your city council, so that you've got the opportunity and the tools to put together a knockout presentation to tell your story, to inspire, to educate, and again, to help expand the great work that you're doing throughout the state. So that was kind of my cheerleader. Probably should have done that earlier, but anyway, that was my little cheerleader.
No, I think so. Yeah. So what the heck are we looking for in all of this, and what's the process? So again, we're here to help between now and due date. After due date, a couple weeks later, the steering committee for this year will be meeting and discussing all the proposals that have come in. And if you're curious who's on the steering committee, you can find that, again, back on the Indiana Arts Commission website. It's a much larger committee this year. There's quite an interesting list of folks that are there. You might be curious to see. So they'll take a first cut at the proposals in mid-March. And from there, they'll probably say absolutely yes to some, absolutely no to others. And these are interesting. Can we talk with them some more for some folks in the middle, right? And what they're going to be looking for are, first and foremost, sessions that are widely applicable to attendees from across the state. Indiana is a tall state with very small communities and very large urban areas and everything in between. It is a state with folks that are new to the field and folks that are leaders nationally and everything in between. It's a lot to ask, but we're hoping that everything feels welcoming and accessible to that whole range of folks. Obviously, we want proposals to fit within the theme and the priorities of the theme, and we want sessions to relate to one another as sort of a coherent conference with logical tracks. Attendees move in and out of the tracks, but we want it to sort of make sense over the course of the 2 days. And then, proposal content, quality, clarity. Is the format interactive? That's an important one. And does the presenter have experience with the topic? Now, for some conferences, that would mean, have you presented this before? Because we only want proven material. That's not what we mean. We mean, have you got your hands dirty working on it or trying to figure it out, and feel. So I think that's consistent with what we've talked about. Sorry, I'm starting to fumble. So last slide, timeline, and then we're going to open up to questions. So Friday, March 1st at 5 p.m. Eastern time, because there's some on Central, so Eastern time, is when this first round is due. We hope that will be sufficient. I know it's relatively soon, but again, you don't have to have the presentation finished by the proposal, just an understanding of what the topic is and who. So March through May is going to be the review and revision process, and we hope to have everybody notified one way or another by the end of May. It'll come out in sort of waves. Again, there's going to be some absolutely yes, pretty soon, some no, and probably a lot of we're figuring this out.
So I know probably a lot of folks on this webinar are also potential grantees, furiously working on their fabulous AOS 1, 2, 3 or APS grant applications, which are due shortly after this deadline. So we recognize that. So again, the proposal submission process is brief. So I would say, in the midst of that grant application, just put it aside for, 10, 15 minutes, put in a submission proposal, and then get back to your grant application work. That way, what you're working on and who you are as an organization is kind of fresh in your mind. And again, we recognize we bumped those deadlines pretty close, but we also feel like the arts community can probably walk and chew gum at the same time. So we're trusting you with being able to do both of those things. So again, the proposal information that we're looking for is fairly brief and concise. No financial information needs to be uploaded, so it should be pretty easy for you to put at least the bare bones of a proposal up for the steering committee to take a look at.
And we hope that the field honestly makes it hard for the steering committee that puts a ton of ideas out there,
absolutely,
of all stripes. So then middle of the summer or so, we'll do a webinar with the selected speakers to talk through questions related to the conference itself, to accessibility of their presentations, and just all the sort of mechanics that go forward from there. And then late summer, a first draft of materials, and then a month to 6 weeks before the conference, the final materials will be due. Again, it seems early, perhaps, but it's so that we can make sure everything works, get it all loaded, make sure the tech works, make sure the accessibility works, and make sure that we have the final text on descriptions and those sorts of things in time for program development and printing. All right? So with that, oh my Lord.
Yeah,
so
David Pumpkin is here.
It is yours for whatever questions any of you have at this point. Feel free to turn your mic back on to talk with us, or to ask your questions in the chat, or raise your hand and we can call on you. Whatever works for you. We are now at your disposal for the rest.
So are there any questions? Any, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about, or this is scary, or anybody have questions? It's very quiet out there.
We should have put a Jeopardy theme in. If you're having technological difficulty with audio or anything like that, please type a chat and let us know.
Oh, Donna Catalano.
Donna.
Maybe on Facebook or social media or something, maybe, or within the application and guidelines, you could put some samples of what happened last year, just to give people a little nudge on things that were done, so they could get an idea.
Sure. Yeah, some
Sometimes that might
proposal
make,
descriptions maybe.
yeah, that might make somebody a little more comfortable about thinking their idea is okay.
Okay, that's a great idea.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at Bridget. So.
What is in there so far is a link to the past program.
Okay.
So folks can find some things there, but we can certainly pull out just
pull out
some
a couple
examples to make
Yep.
it easier to access. Thank you, Donna.
Yeah, great
You're welcome.
suggestion.
Any other suggestions or questions?
Anything we didn't cover that you might want to know about?
Any ideas you want to float?
Okay, well then, you know what? You're still on, so you know, I guess didn't bore you to death, so that's a good sign. Our emails are obviously up on the screen. Feel free to shoot us an email, check out the online resources, and we'll post on a suggestion there with a couple of sample proposals from the past. And again, feel free to reach out either via email, social media, or we'll even answer the phone. So to help you walk through stuff. Again, I've gotten some emails from some folks who are looking at proposals, and that's great. But we're happy to coach you through the process. That's what we're here for. Because again, we're not just building a conference, we're building capacity as well, which I think which will help not only us get stronger as a state, but we think you as an organization or you as an individual presenter will help build your presentation skills going forward. So we're hopeful that we can build a statewide team of folks that are ready to storm the Midwest and talk about the great things that are happening here in Indiana. So anyway.
And one last comment, as questions come in about the proposal process, we're adding those questions and answers to the FAQs. So anything that's broadly applicable will get added along the way.
Yeah, and Donna just asked if the webinar will be online. Yes, we are recording it and we will be posting it. So it will be online because I know a couple of folks couldn't make it and want to listen to it later. So
we hope this was helpful for everyone, and we are looking forward. Right, I've got a list here of everybody who was on here. I'm looking forward to seeing all of your proposals come in the mix. Have a wonderful day, even though it's dreary outside, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bridget. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Chapin. Thanks, Louis.
Indeed.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.